Marcus Chen pushed his food around on his plate, trying not to look at the empty chairs surrounding him in the station cafeteria. 3 weeks had passed since he arrived at Luna 3 research station, and he still ate alone every meal. The other humans on the station seemed friendly enough during work hours, but they always had excuses when mealtime came around. He was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life forms. His job was supposed to be exciting. Luna 3 was one of the most diverse research stations in the galaxy, with over 30 different alien species working together. But Marcus felt more isolated here than he had ever felt in his life. After finishing his meal, Marcus walked back to his new apartment in Section C. The housing administrator had seemed nervous when assigning him the room. She kept checking her screen and muttering about protocol changes and new requirements. Marcus didn't understand what she meant, but he was grateful to have his own space after months of shared quarters during his journey here. The apartment was small but comfortable. It had a bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and a living area with a large window that looked out into the station's central courtyard. Marcus had been surprised to discover that most of the other apartments in his section appeared to be empty. The few times he had walked down the hallways, they were completely silent. That night, Marcus woke up to strange sounds coming from the walls. It sounded like whispers, but not quite human. He pressed his ear against the wall and listened. The sound seemed to be coming from the apartment next door, which he was sure had been empty when he moved in. The next morning, Marcus decided to investigate. He knocked on the door of the apartment next to his. After a long pause, the door opened just a crack. A pale face peered out at him. The being had large, dark eyes and sharp features. Its skin looked almost translucent in the hallway lighting. "You are the human," the being said in perfect English, though its voice had a strange musical quality. "Yes, I'm Marcus Chen. I just moved in next door. I wanted to introduce myself." The being studied him for a long moment. "I am Velith. We have been waiting for you." "Waiting for me? How did you know I was coming?" Velith's lips curved into what might have been a smile, revealing teeth that were definitely sharper than human teeth. "We know many things, Marcus Chen. Sleep well tonight. You are safe here." The door closed before Marcus could ask any more questions. Over the next few days, Marcus noticed more changes in his section of the station. The empty apartments were no longer empty. He caught glimpses of pale figures moving in the shadows of the hallways. They were tall and thin, always dressed in dark clothing. When they saw him, they would nod politely, but never tried to start conversations. The strangest thing was how other aliens reacted when they came to his section. Marcus watched from his window as various species would approach his building, then suddenly stop as if they had hit an invisible wall. They would look around nervously, then quickly walk away in the other direction. Marcus tried asking his human colleagues about his new neighbors, but none of them seemed to know anything. When he described Velith and the others, his supervisor, Dr. Williams, looked uncomfortable. "Just focus on your work, Chen," she said. "Station housing assignments are handled by the administration. I'm sure they know what they're doing." But Marcus could not stop thinking about it. He spent his free time researching different alien species in the station database. Finally, he found something. The Sanguinari were listed as Class 7 restricted information. The only details available were that they were an ancient species, extremely rare, and that all contact with them required special authorization. One evening, Marcus was working late in his lab when the station's alarms suddenly started blaring. Red emergency lights flashed, and a computerized voice announced, "Security breach in Section F. All personnel remain in current locations. Do not leave your posts." Marcus looked out the lab window towards Section F. He could see small explosions and laser fire in the distance. The attack was real and serious. His hand shook as he tried to call his supervisor, but the communication systems were down. 20 minutes later, the alarm stopped. The emergency lights switched back to normal. The computerized voice announced, "Threat neutralized. All clear. Resume normal operations." Marcus could not believe it. 20 minutes seemed impossibly fast to stop what looked like a major attack. The next morning, Marcus heard other researchers talking about the incident. Apparently, a group of Kryllian raiders had broken into the station's outer defenses. The Kryllians were known for being extremely violent and difficult to stop. But something had killed all 12 attackers before they could reach the main research areas. The security footage was corrupted, one researcher said. But the Kryllians were found drained of blood, completely drained. Security has no idea what could have done that so quickly. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He thought about his pale neighbors with their sharp teeth. That evening, there was a knock on his door. Marcus opened it to find Velith standing in the hallway. "May I come in?" Velith asked. Marcus stepped aside, and Velith entered his apartment. Up close, Marcus could see that the being was even stranger than he had first thought. Velith's skin had a slight glow to it, and when he moved, it was with a fluid grace that seemed almost supernatural. "You have questions," Velith said, sitting down in Marcus's small living room. "The attack last night. That was you and the others, wasn't it? We protected what is ours to protect." "I don't understand. Why would you protect me? We just met." Velith was quiet for a long moment. His dark eyes seemed to be studying Marcus with great intensity. "Your kind has something we have spent millennia searching for," Velith finally said. "We are the Sanguinari. We are very old, and we have been alone for a very long time. But your presence here changes everything." "What do you mean?" "In time, you will understand. For now, know that no harm will come to you while we are here. Sleep well, Marcus-chun. Tomorrow your real education begins." Velith left as quietly as he had arrived, leaving Marcus with more questions than answers. 3 weeks passed after Marcus's first real conversation with Velith. During this time, he began to notice patterns that made him feel both curious and uneasy. Every morning, Marcus walked the same route to his laboratory. He passed through the central courtyard, took the lift to level 5, and walked down a long corridor lined with research rooms. But something had changed about this routine. Other aliens who used to share these spaces with him were no longer there. At first, Marcus thought it was just coincidence. Maybe the Zephyrian researchers had been reassigned, or the Centauri engineers had finished their projects. But as days went by, he realized that the absence was too complete to be natural. Marcus decided to test his theory. He chose a different route to work, one that took him through the busiest parts of the station. As he walked, he watched carefully. Aliens of all kinds moved normally through the corridors until they got close to him. Then something strange happened. A group of Altarian merchants were walking toward him, deep in conversation about trade negotiations. When they got within about 20 meters of Marcus, they suddenly stopped talking. Their large, insect-like eyes turned toward him, and their antennae twitched nervously. Without saying a word to each other, they turned around and walked quickly in the opposite direction. This happened again and again. A Rigelian scientist dropped his datapad when he saw Marcus and rushed away so fast he forgot to pick it up. 2 Andromedan technicians were repairing a wall panel, but when Marcus approached, they packed up their tools and left immediately. Even though their work was clearly not finished, Marcus felt like he was carrying some kind of invisible disease. But he didn't feel sick. In fact, he felt better than he had in months. His thinking was clearer, his energy levels were higher, and he was sleeping more peacefully than ever before. That evening, Marcus decided to visit Dr. Williams to discuss what was happening. Her office was in Section A, which meant he had to walk through most of the station to get there. This gave him a perfect opportunity to observe the pattern more closely. As he walked, Marcus realized that the effect wasn't just about aliens avoiding him. There seemed to be an invisible boundary around him, roughly circular, with a radius of about 20 meters. Within this circle, no other aliens would enter. But just outside this boundary, life on the station continued normally. Dr. Williams's office was crowded when Marcus arrived. She was meeting with several alien researchers about a joint project. But as Marcus got closer to the office door, the aliens inside became visibly uncomfortable. They made quick excuses about needing to check on experiments or attend other meetings. Within 5 minutes, the office was empty except for Dr. Williams and Marcus. "This keeps happening," Marcus said as he sat down across from her desk. "Every alien I get near runs away like I'm dangerous." Dr. Williams looked tired. She had been the station director for 8 years and was known for her calm handling of interspecies conflicts. But now she seemed stressed and uncertain. "Marcus, I've been getting complaints," she said. "Not about you personally. The aliens aren't saying you've done anything wrong, but they're all requesting transfers away from your work areas. Some of them are saying they feel watched or threatened when they're near you." "Threatened by me? I'm just a researcher. I don't even carry weapons." "It's not you they're worried about," Dr. Williams said quietly. "It's your new neighbors." Marcus leaned forward. "What do you know about the Sanguinari?" Dr. Williams was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled up a file on her computer screen and turned it toward Marcus. "This is classified information," she said. "But given the situation, I think you have a right to know some things." The file contained reports from various space stations and colonies across the galaxy. All of them described similar events: the arrival of Sanguinari, the sudden avoidance behavior of other alien species, and the protection of specific individuals. "They're not just your neighbors," Dr. Williams explained. "According to these reports, the Sanguinari only appear when certain conditions are met. They seem to be drawn to specific individuals, and once they arrive, they form what the reports call a guardian circle around that person. But why me? We don't know. The reports mention that it's always humans who become the center of these guardian circles. But there's no clear pattern about which humans are chosen." Marcus read through the reports more carefully. In each case, the protected human reported feeling healthier, thinking more clearly, and experiencing improved physical abilities. Meanwhile, the Sanguinari seemed to become more active and powerful than they were normally. One report caught his attention. It was from a mining colony in the Vega system. A human engineer named Sarah Kim had been chosen by a group of Sanguinari. The report described how other species on the colony became so uncomfortable around her that they actually left the colony entirely. But during her time there, the mining operation became more efficient than it had ever been, and several dangerous accidents were prevented by what the report called impossible timing of Sanguinari interventions. "There's something else," Dr. Williams said. "We've been monitoring electromagnetic readings in your section of the station. Since the Sanguinari arrived, there's been a significant increase in certain types of bioelectric activity." She showed Marcus a graph on her screen. "This is the normal electromagnetic background of the station. And this," she pulled up another graph, "is the readings from your area over the past few weeks." The difference was dramatic. The energy patterns around Marcus's section were far more complex and intense than anywhere else on the station. "We think you're generating some kind of bioelectric field that the Sanguinari can detect," Dr. Williams said. "And somehow, your presence is affecting them in ways we don't understand." Marcus walked back to his apartment that evening with his mind racing. As he entered his section of the station, he tried to sense the energy field that Dr. Williams had described. He couldn't feel anything unusual, but he could definitely see the effects. The hallways were completely empty, except for the occasional glimpse of a pale figure in the shadows. But these weren't random sightings anymore. Marcus realized that the Sanguinari were positioned strategically throughout the section. They were watching the entrances, the ventilation systems, and any route that could be used to approach his apartment. When he reached his door, Velith was waiting for him. "You have learned something today," Velith said. It wasn't a question. Dr. Williams showed me reports about other humans like me. Humans who were protected by your people. And what do you think of these reports? Marcus considered his answer carefully. "I think you need something from humans. And in exchange, you protect us. But I don't understand what we give you." Velith's sharp features softened slightly. "You give us life itself, Marcus-chan. For the first time in centuries, we are not slowly dying. Your presence feeds something in us that we had almost forgotten existed." "What do you mean?" "Tomorrow night, I will show you. But first, you must understand that what you are learning cannot be shared with your kind who are not chosen. The balance is delicate, and there are many in the galaxy who would not want to see it restored." Velith disappeared back into the shadows, leaving Marcus to wonder what balance he was talking about and what it would mean for his future. The next evening, Velith came to Marcus's apartment as promised. But this time, he was not alone. 3 other Sanguinari followed him inside. Marcus had never seen them so close together before, and their combined presence made the air in his small apartment feel thick and electric. "This is Kyrith," Velith said, indicating a tall female Sanguinari with silver hair. "She is our keeper of memories. And these are Zenth and Morax, our strongest warriors." The 3 Sanguinari studied Marcus with intense curiosity. Kyrith approached him first, moving with the same fluid grace that all of her kind seemed to possess. "May I touch your hand?" she asked. Marcus nodded and extended his hand toward her. When Kyrith's pale fingers made contact with his skin, something extraordinary happened. A warm, tingling sensation spread up his arm and throughout his body. At the same time, Kyrith's translucent skin began to glow more brightly. "It is true," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. "The resonance is perfect." "What resonance?" Marcus asked. Velith gestured for everyone to sit down. "It is time you learned the truth about your species and ours." Kyrith closed her eyes and began to speak in a voice that seemed to echo with age and wisdom. "Long ago, before your people came to the world you call Earth, there was a great civilization that spanned many star systems. This civilization was not built by one species alone, but by 2 working together. One species provided strength, protection, and long life. The other provided energy, creativity, and the spark of growth. Together, they were more powerful than either could be alone." "You're talking about humans and Sanguinari," Marcus said. "Your ancestors and ours," Kyrith confirmed. "For thousands of years, we lived in harmony. Human settlements were protected by Sanguinari guardians, and in return, humans shared something that kept our people healthy and strong." Zenth, one of the warriors, leaned forward. His voice was deep and rough. "We called it the life song. It flows in your blood, in your thoughts, in the very energy your bodies produce. Without it, we grow weak and eventually fade away." "But something went wrong," Marcus guessed. Velith nodded sadly. "A great war came to our part of the galaxy. Enemy forces attacked our worlds, trying to destroy the alliance between our peoples. The war lasted for generations and destroyed most of our civilization. During the final battles," Kyrith continued, "the surviving humans were evacuated to a hidden world far from the fighting. We Sanguinari stayed behind to hold off the enemy and give the humans time to escape. The plan was that we would reunite when the war ended. But the war never really ended," Morax said. His voice carried the weight of ancient sadness. "The enemies were defeated, but our worlds were destroyed. The star charts that showed the location of the human refuge world were lost. We spent centuries searching, but we could not find your people. Marcus felt overwhelmed by what he was learning. So humans have been on Earth all this time, and you've been looking for us? Your people were not idle during those centuries, Velith said. Cut off from us, humanity developed differently than it would have in the old alliance. You became more independent, more innovative. You learned to solve problems without our protection. In many ways, you grew stronger. But we grew weaker, Kyrith added. Without the life song, our people began to die out. There are fewer than 10,000 sanguinari left in the entire galaxy. We had almost given up hope of finding your kind again. Until now, Zent said, looking directly at Marcus. When humans finally began to explore space again, Velith explained, we felt it immediately. The life song was calling to us from across the stars. But your people had forgotten about us completely. To you, we had become nothing more than myths and legends. Marcus thought about the vampire stories from human folklore. That's why our legends describe beings like you as dangerous blood drinkers. The memories were distorted over time, Kyrith said. The truth about our partnership became stories of predators and prey. Your people remembered that we needed something from human blood, but they forgot that the relationship was beneficial to both sides. What exactly do you take from us? Marcus asked. Kyrith held up her hand, which was still glowing softly from their earlier contact. We do not take blood itself. We absorb specific electromagnetic patterns that your nervous system generates. It is harmless to you, but vital to us. And in return, Velith said, our presence enhances your natural abilities. You think more clearly, your reflexes are faster, and your body heals more quickly. The alliance makes both species better than they are alone. Marcus stood up and began pacing around his small living room. The information was almost too much to process. Why don't other alien species like this arrangement? He asked. Why do they avoid me when you're around? The four sanguinari exchanged glances. Morax answered this question. In the old days, the human sanguinari alliance was the most powerful force in this part of the galaxy. Other species respected us, but some also feared us. When we disappeared, the balance of power changed completely. Now that humans are returning to space, Zent added, and some of us are reuniting with your kind, that old fear is awakening. They remember stories of what we were capable of when we worked together. They are afraid that the alliance will return, Velith said. And they are right to be afraid. Together, our peoples could reshape the entire galaxy. Marcus sat back down, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. So what happens now? Am I supposed to go back to Earth and tell everyone that we have ancient alien partners waiting for us? It will not be that simple, Kyrith said. The reunion must happen slowly and carefully. Your people are not ready for the full truth, and there are forces in the galaxy that will try to prevent the alliance from being restored. What kind of forces? Velith's expression became grim. Species that have grown powerful in our absence. Governments and organizations that profit from keeping humans isolated and weak. They will not want to see humanity take its rightful place as a major galactic power. But they cannot stop what has already begun, Morax said with satisfaction. You are the first, Marcus-chan, but you will not be the last. Other humans are being chosen by other sanguinari groups across the galaxy. The old bonds are awakening. What do you need me to do? Marcus asked. For now, simply continue to live and work here, Velith said. Learn what you can about galactic politics and alien cultures. When the time comes, you will help us show the galaxy that the alliance between our peoples is not a threat to peace, but a foundation for it. Kyrith stood up and approached Marcus again. May I show you one more thing? Marcus nodded. This time, when Kyrith touched his hand, the sensation was even stronger. But now Marcus could feel something flowing back from her to him. His mind suddenly felt sharper and more focused than ever before. Colors seemed brighter, sounds more clear, and he could sense the electromagnetic fields of all four sanguinari around him. "This is what the full alliance feels like," Kyrith said. "This is what your ancestors and ours experienced together." As the enhancement faded back to normal levels, Marcus realized that his life had just changed forever. He was no longer just a xenobiologist studying alien life. He was a bridge between two species that had been separated for millennia, and his choices would help determine the future of the galaxy. 2 months passed after the revelation about the Ancient Alliance. During this time, Marcus noticed subtle changes happening throughout the station. Dr. Williams received an unusual number of requests from other species wanting to transfer away from Luna 3. The official reasons varied, but Marcus suspected the real cause was the growing presence of sanguinari in his section. More importantly, word seemed to be spreading beyond the station. Marcus began intercepting communications that mentioned the human with the ancient guardians and the awakening partnership. These messages were usually encrypted, but Velith and his people had remarkable abilities when it came to gathering information. "We are being watched," Velith told Marcus one evening as they stood in Marcus's apartment, looking out at the central courtyard. "Several species have sent observers to monitor the situation here." "What kind of observers?" "Diplomatic spies, military scouts, and what your people might call corporate intelligence agents. Word of our reunion has reached some very powerful groups." Marcus could see the tension in Velith's posture. The sanguinari leader had been unusually alert for the past few days. "They're planning something, aren't they?" "We believe so. The question is when and how they will act." The answer came 3 days later. Marcus was working late in his laboratory, analyzing soil samples from a newly discovered planet, when his computer terminal suddenly went dark. Emergency lighting activated throughout the station, casting everything in an eerie red glow. But this time, the alarms didn't sound. Instead, an unfamiliar voice came through the communication system. "Attention all station personnel. This facility is now under the authority of the Galactic Security Council. Remain in your current locations and prepare for inspection and interrogation." Marcus felt his heart rate increase. The Galactic Security Council was a loose alliance of several major alien species. They usually only got involved in cases of extreme threats to galactic stability. Through his laboratory window, Marcus could see armed figures moving through the station corridors. These weren't the usual security forces. They wore heavy combat armor and carried weapons that looked far more advanced than anything the station normally had. Marcus reached for his communication device to contact Velith, but the device was completely dead. All electronic systems, except basic lighting, seemed to have been shut down. Suddenly, Marcus felt something he had never experienced before. It started as a warm sensation in his chest, then spread throughout his entire body. His vision became incredibly sharp, and he could hear sounds from much farther away than should have been possible. He realized he could sense the electromagnetic signatures of every living being within hundreds of meters. Through this enhanced perception, Marcus could feel the positions of the attacking forces. There were at least 50 armed aliens moving through the station in coordinated teams. But he could also sense something else. The sanguinari were moving too. Velith, Kyrith, Zenth, and Morax were not in their usual positions. Instead, they seemed to be flowing through the station like shadows, taking positions that would allow them to strike at the attackers from multiple directions. Marcus understood that his enhanced senses were connected to the sanguinari. Somehow, the symbiotic relationship was working in ways that Kyrith had not fully explained. He wasn't just providing energy to them. They were sharing their abilities with him. A group of armored figures appeared outside Marcus's laboratory. They were hegemony soldiers, members of a militaristic alliance that controlled several star systems. One of them began working on the door's electronic lock, while the others kept watch. Through his enhanced hearing, Marcus could understand their conversation, even though they were speaking in a language he had never studied. "Target is confirmed inside," one soldier said. "Orders are to secure the human alive and eliminate any sanguinary interference. Intelligence reports suggest there are at least 4 sanguinari protecting this facility," another soldier replied. "Be prepared for resistance." The door to Marcus's laboratory slid open, and 3 soldiers entered with weapons raised. "You are Marcus Chun," the lead soldier said in accented English. "Come with us immediately. You are being relocated for your own safety." Marcus knew this was a lie. These soldiers weren't here to protect him. They were here to separate him from the sanguinari and study the alliance that was forming. "I'm not going anywhere," Marcus said calmly. The soldiers looked surprised by his confident tone. What they didn't realize was that Marcus could sense exactly where each of them was positioned, even the ones behind him. His enhanced perception gave him a complete picture of the tactical situation. "You do not have a choice," the lead soldier said. Stepping forward, at that moment, the laboratory lights went out completely. In the darkness, Marcus heard sounds of movement that seemed impossibly fast. There were brief flashes of energy weapons firing, followed by sounds of impact and falling bodies. When emergency lighting returned 30 seconds later, all 3 soldiers were unconscious on the floor. Velith stood in the doorway, completely unharmed. "Are you injured?" Velith asked. "No, but I could sense everything that was happening. I could understand their language, and I knew exactly where everyone was positioned." "The bond is growing stronger under stress," Velith observed. "This is good. We will need every advantage." Through the station's communication system, they could hear sounds of fighting from multiple locations. The attackers had clearly underestimated the sanguinari, but they were not giving up easily. "How many are there?" Marcus asked. Velith paused, and Marcus realized he was communicating somehow with the other sanguinari throughout the station. 73 attackers from 4 different species, Velith reported. They have divided into teams and are attempting to secure all major areas of the station simultaneously. "Can you stop them all?" "Not without you." Marcus understood. The sanguinari were powerful, but they were still only 4 individuals against a much larger force. However, with Marcus providing the life-song energy and receiving enhanced abilities in return, the partnership became something much more formidable. "What do you need me to do?" "Come with me. We must coordinate with the others." As they moved through the station corridors, Marcus found that his enhanced senses allowed him to perceive the battle in ways that felt almost supernatural. He could sense the positions and movements of both the attackers and his sanguinari allies. More importantly, he found that he could somehow share information with Velith and the others without speaking. They reached a central junction where Kyrith, Zenth, and Morax were waiting. The 4 sanguinari formed a protective circle around Marcus, but he realized that they were also drawing strength from his presence. "The attackers are regrouping," Kyrith reported. "They've realized that their initial strategy failed. They're planning to use heavier weapons," Marcus said, somehow knowing this information through his enhanced perception. "They have explosives." The sanguinari looked at him with surprise. "How do you know this?" Morax asked. "I can sense their electromagnetic signatures. Their equipment has different energy patterns than standard weapons." Velith smiled grimly. "The alliance is stronger than we expected. Marcus, can you help us coordinate our response?" For the next hour, Marcus found himself in the strange position of being both protected and strategic coordinator. His enhanced senses allowed him to track the movements of all the attackers throughout the station. While the sanguinari used this information to strike with perfect timing and positioning, the battle was unlike anything Marcus had ever imagined. The Sanguinari moved through the station like deadly ghosts, appearing wherever they were needed and disappearing before the enemy could respond effectively. Meanwhile, Marcus felt his own abilities continuing to expand. He could process tactical information at incredible speed and communicate complex strategies to his allies without speaking by the end of the fight. All 73 attackers had been either captured or had fled the station. Not a single station resident had been seriously injured, and the Sanguinari had suffered no casualties at all. As normal lighting was restored throughout the station, Marcus realized that everything had changed again. The attack had been a test of the renewed alliance, and they had passed with overwhelming success. They will not underestimate us again, Velith said as they watched captured attackers being secured by station security. But they won't give up either, Marcus replied. This was just the beginning. Yes, Kyrith agreed. And now the galaxy knows what we are capable of when we work together. The morning after the attack, Marcus sat in Dr. Williams's office, facing a room full of people he had never seen before. They were all human, wearing the formal uniforms of Earth's Deep Space Authority. Apparently, news of the battle had reached Earth faster than anyone expected. Dr. Chun, said Admiral Sarah Martinez, the leader of the group. We need to understand exactly what happened here. Marcus looked around the room at the serious faces staring back at him. These were some of the most important people in human space exploration, and they were all waiting for his explanation. I formed an alliance, Marcus said simply, with a species that has been looking for humanity for thousands of years. Over the next several hours, Marcus told them everything. The ancient partnership, the symbiotic relationship, the enhanced abilities, and the battle that had proven the alliance's power. The officials listened with expressions that ranged from amazement to concern. You're telling us that humans and these Sanguinari were once partners, Admiral Martinez said, and that this partnership made both species more powerful. Not just more powerful, Marcus corrected. More complete. We provide something they need to survive, and they provide protection and enhancement of our natural abilities. And other alien species are afraid of this alliance. Terrified, Marcus confirmed. The attack yesterday was organized by multiple species working together. They're not just worried about the Sanguinari becoming stronger. They're worried about humanity becoming a major galactic power. Dr. Williams had been quiet during most of the discussion, but now she spoke up. Admiral, I've been monitoring communications from other stations and colonies throughout this sector. Similar partnerships are forming elsewhere. This isn't just happening here on Luna 3. Admiral Martinez leaned forward. How many other humans are involved? At least 12 that we know of, Dr. Williams replied. And the number is growing. One of the other officials, a woman named Director Chun, who worked for Earth's Alien Relations Department, asked the question that Marcus had been expecting. Dr. Chun, would you be willing to serve as humanity's first official ambassador to the Sanguinari? Marcus looked out the window at the station courtyard, where he could see Velith and Kyrith moving among the normal population. Other aliens still avoided them, but they no longer seemed as frightened. Word of the battle had spread, and now the avoidance was mixed with obvious respect. I'll do it, Marcus said. But there are conditions. What kind of conditions? First, this has to be a real partnership, not humans trying to control the Sanguinari or use them as weapons. Second, we need to be honest with the galactic community about what we're doing. No secret alliances or hidden agendas. Admiral Martinez smiled. Those conditions are exactly what we were hoping to hear. 3 months later, Marcus found himself standing on the bridge of the Earthship Unity, the first vessel designed specifically for joint human Sanguinari operations. The ship was approaching Galactic Council Station Alpha, where representatives from over 100 Alien species were waiting to meet with the newly reformed alliance. Velith stood beside him, wearing formal diplomatic robes that somehow made him look both ancient and timeless. Behind them, the ship's crew worked at stations designed to accommodate both human and sanguinary operators. "Are you ready for this?" Marcus asked his friend. "We have been preparing for this moment for millennia," Velith replied. "The question is whether the galaxy is ready for us." The main screen showed the massive space station growing larger as they approached. It was a structure that represented the combined efforts of dozens of civilizations. And today it would host the most important diplomatic meeting in galactic history. Marcus touched the communication control on his chair. "This is Ambassador Marcus Chun of the Human Sanguinary Alliance, requesting permission to dock." There was a long pause before the response came. "Permission granted, Ambassador. Welcome to Galactic Council Station Alpha." As their ship entered the docking bay, Marcus could see that they were not alone. Ships from Earth, representing the human government, were docked alongside vessels that he now recognized as sanguinary craft. The ancient species had ships that looked like they were grown rather than built, with organic curves and surfaces that seemed to shift and flow like living tissue. The formal presentation to the Galactic Council took place in a vast amphitheater that could hold representatives from hundreds of species. Marcus stood at the center podium with Velith beside him, facing an audience of beings that represented most of the known galaxy. "Honored representatives," Marcus began, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. "I am here to announce the restoration of an ancient alliance that will benefit not just our two species, but the entire galactic community." He spoke for nearly an hour, explaining the history of the human-sanguinary partnership and the benefits it offered. He described how the alliance enhanced both species' natural abilities, how it provided unprecedented levels of protection and innovation, and how it could serve as a foundation for galactic peace rather than a threat to it. When he finished, the questions began immediately. "How do we know this alliance will not seek to dominate other species?" asked the representative from the Centauri Federation. Velith stepped forward to answer this question. "Honored delegate, domination has never been our goal. For thousands of years before the Great War, the Human Sanguinary Alliance coexisted peacefully with hundreds of other civilizations. We seek partnership, not conquest. What guarantees can you offer that this enhanced power will not be misused?" demanded the hegemony representative. Marcus smiled. "The same guarantees that any civilization offers: our word, our actions, and our commitment to galactic law. But more than that, we offer transparency. We invite observers from any interested species to witness how our alliance operates." The questions continued for hours, but Marcus could sense that the mood of the assembly was shifting. The initial fear and suspicion were giving way to curiosity and cautious optimism. Finally, the council president, a wise Andromedan elder named Zephys, called for the formal vote. All those in favor of recognizing the Human Sanguinary Alliance as a legitimate political entity with full diplomatic rights. Marcus held his breath as representatives throughout the chamber activated their voting devices. The results appeared on the main screen within seconds. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive, 78% in favor of recognition. "The motion passes," President Zephys announced. "The Human Sanguinary Alliance is hereby recognized as a sovereign entity with full diplomatic status." The chamber erupted in a mixture of applause and discussion. Marcus felt a surge of relief and accomplishment. As they left the chamber after the ceremony, Velith placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "This is only the beginning," the sanguinary leader said. "Now the real work starts." "What do you mean?" "Now we must prove that the Alliance can deliver on its promises. We must show the galaxy that partnership between species can create something greater than the sum of its parts. Marcus nodded. Looking back at the chamber, where representatives from across the galaxy were still discussing the implications of what had just happened. "How many humans and sanguinari are partnered now?" he asked. "Over 300 pairs," Velas replied. "And the number grows each day as more of our people find each other." "What about Earth? Are people there ready for this?" "Your world's leaders are preparing for the first sanguinari diplomatic mission to Earth next month. It will be the first time our people have visited your homeworld since before the Great War." Marcus felt the weight of history settling around him. In less than a year, he had gone from being a lonely xenobiologist to serving as the bridge between two species that were reshaping the galaxy as they walked toward their ship. Marcus realized that other aliens in the station no longer avoided them. Instead, many approached with respectful greetings and requests for meetings. The fear was being replaced by recognition that the Human Sanguinari Alliance represented opportunity rather than threat. "The galaxy is changing," Marcus observed. "Yes," Melith agreed. "And we are the ones changing it. Together, as our ancestors intended." Looking out at the stars through the station's massive windows, Marcus could see ships from dozens of civilizations coming and going. Soon, human and sanguinari vessels would be common sights at stations throughout the galaxy. The age of partnership had begun. And Marcus Chun, the first human ambassador to an ancient alien ally, had helped make it possible. The boy who had once eaten lunch alone in the station cafeteria was now a bridge between worlds, proving that humanity's greatest strength was not in standing alone, but in forging bonds that transformed everyone they touched.